Are we on? I think we're on. Hello everybody, welcome to my show. This is the first episode of Sharpy Does Bits, alright? And it's going to be my show where we got to do anything we want. And we're going to have guests on every week and we're just going to chat shit about anything and everything. That's why it is rightly titled Sharpy Does Bits, okay? Was thinking of the name, thinking what should we do? I want to do a bit of my own show off of the Utopia project. Can we do a bit of cooking show, bit of this, bit of that? But no, we'll keep it open-ended because I like doing a lot of things and I miss people. So I want to get everybody on. If anyone wants to come on as a guest, feel free, just get in contact with me and we'll get you on. We'll talk about whatever it is you want to do, whether it's want to talk about gaming, want to talk about mental health, want to talk about how your day's been, talk about how good your fucking birthday cake was. I don't mind. Let's just get this lockdown community sorted so we can keep that connection and keep spreading the love. So for the first episode, I've got my good friend from Sorry You're In... Yeah, You're Sorry? No. I'm Sorry You're In Your Seat podcast is Sam Buckthorpe. And I brought him on. He's a very good friend of mine. So if we'd like to welcome on Mr. Sam Buckthorpe.
Hey up, me little flower. How are you, mate? I'm a broadcasting now. I've got you on Facebook here, mate, just in case. So you're talking right now. Hello. Oh, well, indeed. So our podcast is called Sorry You're in My Seat. It's a movie, film review type jobber. We cover everything from reviews of certain films to directors to certain actors. We get a bit silly. We do little battle royales between certain characters, stuff like that. So we're just about to come into the beginning of our Christmas episode, which is going to be good fun, man. Although it does feel a little bit weird that I'm already watching Christmas films and it's the 26th of November. I'm not happy about that. Amazing. What I will tell you though, mate, according to Facebook, which I've got open next to me, there's only me on the screen. Oh, thanks, babe. Wow, you're like doing all digital shit. I like that. That's cool. Incredible, mate.
There we go. Look at that. Mate, it's not bloody picture frames, look.
So do you think just for a little while it's just going to be me and you talking about how amazing it is that you know how to
I
flip
bet it
pictures?
says amazing, and we can like sugarcoat it and all that. But I'm literally pressing buttons between 2 to 4. I'm quite
Oh,
happy I
nice.
managed to press the right one so far. This is a bloody great success. This is nice.
It's not
It's
bad for
all
you, mate.
right, isn't
I'll be
it?
honest.
Managed to turn it on and get it all set up. Like I've had much help doing this, but we're on a winner. We get to spread the joy. So to start off, should we give the audience of probably only a few people as it is at the moment a bit of an overview of our relationship as best friend housemates?
Okay. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Do you want me
go
to
on.
go?
You tell a bit.
Okay, so we've known each other for God, how long now? 6, 7 years, maybe
Fucking is,
five,
isn't
six
it? Time
years.
fucking flies, doesn't it? It's probably over half a
Yeah.
decade now.
Yeah, so we need to remember that you are many, many a year younger than me, even though you look like a sack of shit and I look so
I know. I'm a
youthful.
spring chicken if it was rolled in a turd.
So we've known each other for years. I was looking for someone to move in with me when I moved into my house after my daughter was born because I was just a bit bored and lonely living on my own. I'd never done it before. You needed somewhere to stay, so we moved in and we just spent the next 2 years just staying up till silly o'clock in the morning
We
and
did, didn't we?
chatting shit, drinking beer, dancing in
Oh, we had some
clubs.
times, haven't we? Got them
Yeah.
that bloody scene club down the road, mate. We was always in there busting our moves, weren't we?
We really was. So yeah, we did that for a few years. We spent many a night snuggling up together on the sofa, watching films with a nice candle, drinking wine. It's been a beautiful
It
relationship
has,
so
mate,
far.
and it's got many more years to come. I swear to God, I'll marry him, mate. Honestly,
Some fucker will
I
finally.
know. Mad sick. Right. So with your podcast, basically, you asked for some questions the other day, didn't you? And they were quite philosophical-ish questions that I'd ask because there's some I thought about. They're very film-based, but it still sort of ties into a lot of stuff. So I've got a few of the questions down now, which I thought would be quite good for this episode to get nice deep in the nitty-gritty for. So I'm going to go into these questions. So
Okay,
first
mate.
sort of question that I sent you regarding your podcast, it's film based. Should a film always deliver a message?
Um, I don't think so. I mean, so a bit of a background of me with this podcast. I wasn't a film fan at all. Like, I liked the odd little bit, the odd film. There was nothing really major that I got my way to watch. So we started this podcast as my two best mates sort of like teaching me about good film, teaching me,
Yeah,
like what's good about a film, what's bad about a film, and taking me away from the shit I used to watch. Over the years, I've sort of picked that up now, and I'm really into my films. So, yes, I really like my Oscar-nominated films, my films that deliver a real deep, hard-hitting message, films that can get me to cry, to make me laugh, to whatever. But actually, there is absolutely nothing wrong with a film just being a film. And I've watched a few recently that I've just really loved. Like, so I watched a film recently called His House on Netflix,
His House.
which His House, yeah, it's about a couple of asylum seekers that come over from Sudan. And it's a horror film.
Okay.
So they could have gone down a road of like really sort of getting deep into problems asylum seekers have over in this country and stuff like that. But they didn't. They just kept it as a horror film, and I loved that because it didn't need it. It didn't need that background to push the story. The story was good enough. So personally, in my eyes, no, there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you want to sit back, turn your brain off after. You do long shifts. You know what it's like. 14-hour work. You want to come home, bang a film on, and just relax. Just chill out and have a beer and just watch something on the box. And actually, there is nothing wrong with that. And I'm still a big advocate of doing that.
Yeah. So did you say that film is about asylum seekers that are coming over, and it was just based around a horror film story, and it didn't sort of draw any attention to anything that was stereotypical within that?
Not really. So it obviously does show a lot of like the cultural differences. It shows how the male really wants to get more involved into the British culture. He goes to a pub, he drinks beer, he's chanting at the football games with some people in this pub. Whereas the female lead in it, she wants to stick to her culture and where they came from. So it has that. It could have got so much deeper. It didn't. It just stuck to this beautiful storyline with a great twist in the middle, genuinely quite creepy and scary. And I like that because I think if they would have like hammered home too much of a message, I would have lost it.
I quite like that. I quite like
that
though because it's not shoehorning anything in. It's not characters playing a role specifically. We've picked that character because we need to like be, like say you pick a character, be multicultural, like diverse and whatnot, not for a specific reason, but it's more integrating to everyone then. And still the messages or whatever message it's more to do with the film and the fact that everybody is equal. So I like the fact it can be diverse, but we're still all humans and we're still trying to deliver a good film, and it's not about another agenda or a message about why the characters are in it or anything like that, which I think is quite cool.
No, it's not picking apart things. You know what I mean? Yes, the characters do bad things in it, which as you expect from a character arc in a film. This isn't picking apart the government or picking apart problems in society overly. Every film has bits of that in it. It was what it was, and it was a good horror film. It was creepy. It had decent like jump scares, stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it. And it just was what it was. It was a beautiful film. And again, I am still very novice to the film world, so maybe there's people out there that are going, "Are you mad? I picked up on
different bits,
this, and this throughout the film." But again, like this is a conversation I'm sure we're going to have again. Like it is subjective.
Yeah, that's it.
People will take from things what they want to take from it or what they pick up on. I can watch a film and you watch a film, and we'll both walk away with two completely different ideas of what the story was trying to tell. And that's what I like.
Yeah, that's definitely the beauty of creativity, I think, and how, like you say, everything is subjective and it's all perspective based. At the end of the day, you will take away from something what you want to take away from it, and how that ties in with how like your mindset works and how it ties in with how you relate to things, I think. So I do like that. And like I say, sometimes a film has to be just a film, and like I say, it ends up taking away, whether it is just a film, it's like something like Pacific Rim, which is about big like Transformer like robots, and everyone's like, oh, it's so far-fetched and it's this, that and the other. It's really sort of out there and it's got no purpose to it. But then at the end of the day, if it's something like big robots fighting each other and you want to watch big robots fighting each other for a bit to take your mind off the stuff and relax and take off your mind off the stuff that's going on in your life for a bit, I think that's got a message in itself. So like for me, I would say, should a film have a message? I think there's always going to be a message in everything, especially film, but not always one that's forced in there. There's always, like, again, it's how you look at things. I think every film that's been made, there'll be a message that is being tried to portray from whatever the director's perspective has got there from it. But like I say, that will differ depending on what you take away from that film. You might take something completely different away. But even like if it's just a standalone storyline and it's just about that film in this hyper reality or something that's completely fictional and far-fetched, within the message of why you want to watch that film and the reasons of what you're going to take away from that, whether it's nothing that's personal to your own life or whether it's just switching off for a bit to give yourself that time to relax and not think about your everyday life, is quite a valuable message in itself.
Oh, massively. I mean, like, so our host on Sorry in My Seat, Aaron, I always get told off if I've missed something in a film. He's always going, did you have your phone out? Like, I am a bit of a fucker for having my phone out and checking Facebook or replying to messages during a film, whereas he doesn't. And I do totally get that when watching films that deliver a good message. But the ones that don't, that's kind of what it's there for. It's more background noise. It's like your favourite TV show. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
I've watched it. I'm like my 5,000th run through at the moment. I love it. But it's just background noise. I can sit and watch it. I can reply to messages. I can sit and play a football game on my phone.
It still plays its purpose. But then, that's the thing.
Definitely. And I think if you look at rom-coms, for example, to me, a rom-com does tell it has a purpose. It gives a meaning. But 99% of rom-com films are the same meaning. So to me, it becomes meaningless. I'm not a rom-com fan. I don't like them. I don't feel they deliver anything to me that I need in my life. But I 100% see why people do like them, because you're not walking away with nothing. But some people just want to watch a film where you see A and B fall in love, A messes it all up, but then chases her down at the airport at the end to tell her he loves her. 99% of the films are the same, but it becomes meaningless. And when you've seen it 1,000 times, but people just want that. I want sometimes like you. I mean, I saw the films you watched when you lived here, like Big Bangs, Michael Bay, Transformer bullshit. Some people just want the same way some people might just want. For me, it's horror. I'm big into terrible horror. It's not good. I don't walk away going, oh, that was brilliant. I normally walk away saying that was shit, but I like to put it on, not pay attention and see if it can make me jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, I get you. And the fact that actually, I'm going to skip the second question and we'll come back to that later. So the third question I'm going to ask now, which should tie quite well into that, is how do you consider a film to be artistic? And I think with this question, it's more asking the subjectiveness of what you consider art to be at the same time, to see how that would be artistic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, God, absolutely. I mean, we joke on our podcast all the time about this, and we joked when we read these questions out on the episode due out on Monday, because art is 100% subjective. Like, you will take away what you want to take away. So, does it mean it has to be a beautiful black and white film like Roma a couple of years ago, or The Lighthouse from this year? Like, these are stunning artistic films, or really is Michael Bay again with his 3D in-your-face robots smashing shit out of each other. It's still art. It's just whether you like that or not. You know, for me, it's got to look great. It's got to have a good feel to it. The writing, it's got to have a good story behind it. sometimes a good meaning, if that's what the sort of film you're watching, and a good score. So really, to be artistic for me, it's just got to have that whole package. So I watched a film recently called Colour Out of Space, which, if you can imagine, it's a Nicolas Cage film, and there's a lot of neon pink in it. I thought that was beautiful because it looked stunning. The story's about meteorite and aliens. Yeah, it's a horror story about aliens, man. Like, there's no massive story behind it. Part of it's underacted, part of it's overacted. It's Nicolas Cage doing Nicolas Cage. But I thought it was stunning. I thought it looked beautiful the way that this pink colour in the film, they say, oh, it's a colour, we can't explain it. You can, it's pink. I'm telling you now, the colour. But it just looks awesome. Like, the more this organism spreads, the more around it. Like, the flowers become pink, the creatures become pink, and all. I just think it looks beautiful. So again, artistic. What about yourself? Like, when you're watching a film, to call it
for
artistic,
me, so I would strip it back and say, like I said before, like what I would consider art to be, and everybody's got something different they would consider art to be. For me, a lot of it is like there's beauty in everything. Anything that you consider beautiful, anything you take away as an emotion, no matter what that emotion is, especially if it's a strong one, I would consider to be very artistic and something that's got something that you will connect with. If you can find some connection, some relatability, or some purpose for sitting through a film right to the end, regardless of what it is, regardless of whether you're on your phone halfway through it, regardless of whether you're on the edge of your seat, there is something that has made you not switch that film off. And that, to me, is a sense of art because it's kept you hooked on it. So I think for me, something that's got to be artistic, it's got to be something. There's loads of different ways of looking at it. For one, if I was to get to the end of a film and I'd say that was artistic, that was something that really sort of got me here, it'd be something that I can really relate to. No matter how that is and how I would relate to it, depends. But if it's, I mean, for example, for me, having like suffered with like mental health issues in the past and stuff like that, I would say the film The Joker, because it was a different perspective on this big villain character and how the Joker out of Batman obviously was more of a human perception at first, and he was more of a person, and obviously there is a timeline and a progression to how he went from being an average bloke to being the big made-up supervillain that he was, and how the Joker sort of portrayed that was a lot of things that I could relate to in the sense of mental health issues, of feeling very isolated, feeling like there was a lot of people up against you, and it was just very artistically portrayed. And I say that in a way of I looked at that and I looked at the character and I could have some very strong emotions for sort of feeling a lot of sympathy for the Joker in it, and how the sort of madder that he was as a Joker has got to that point through deterioration. As much as it's ironic that he's supposed to be a clown and he's laughing and he's all this, very upbeat sort of supervillain. It's quite a sad story to how he got to that point and going through all the clinical depression and how the world wasn't there to support him and he didn't have that support network around him, and that is why he ended up in the position that he ended up. For me, something that you can connect to and relate to, and it makes you think a lot more, gets the cogs turning, and really doesn't, you're not then watching a film, you're feeling the emotions based through the film and how that has been portrayed by the actors and how it's done with the director and how all that works together and all them cogs fit together. Very fucking artistic.
Yeah, and I suppose Joker's a fantastic point there, because depending on your opinion as well is how you're going to view this piece of art. So if you went in to say The Joker with a fixed mind of this is going to be awful, we know what the Joker is, we don't need a backstory, he was best done in the comic books or something like that, do you know what I mean? You're not going to go in and enjoy this film. I loved it because in my head this was one man, the screenwriter, and the director, it was their version of the character. This isn't them saying we're taking over this character and this is what the Joker is now. Their thing was this is our interpretation of the Joker and where he may have come from. Now, what you need to remember about that is as well the director of that film is Todd Phillips, who did the Hangover films. So he went from bringing out the Hangover films, which let's be honest are very funny, well the first one in particular. From that to the Joker, like I don't think he probably ever saw himself sat in the Oscars. You know what I mean? Waiting for his name to be called out. I'm sure he never expected that. But I absolutely adored that film like you did. I found it very relatable, relatable to myself, relatable to people I know, friends I have. But again, if you go in there knowing you're going to dislike it or knowing you're going to dislike the character in it because you've seen a better version, then again, you're not going to see that artistic purpose that is there because you have a preset opinion on it already.
That's
you
it.
know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you said something quite interesting there as well when you said about people saying, "Oh, we know what the Joker is. We don't need a backstory." But I think the interesting point there is, regardless of whether you need a backstory to something, there is always going to be a backstory, and it's whether people want to look at it. And that was a big thing about the film The Joker, was he was going through these mental health issues and deteriorating, and nobody understood. And if it didn't involve them, a large population in society, nobody gave a shit, and that's why he sort of felt so isolated. And well, I didn't think he was so isolated because people weren't there for him. And you got to think what ifs and buts. You know, if he did have that support network, would he have even ended up becoming the Joker from this perception of this film? Which I find quite interesting, because like I say, any film, I know it's fiction and all this, that and the other, but then it still has a lot of important, relatable things of right. He's still, even the Joker now, the Joker we all knew before the film The Joker came out, he's still a person, and he has had a very interesting life leading up to that to get to the point of where he is. And like I said, regardless of, we don't need a backstory. Well, to that character in a real life sort of perspective, that backstory is still there and that person still exists. And whether we want to see it or not is the question in hand, and whether people give a shit about somebody's backstory relating that fictional film to real life relatable circumstances.
Yeah, of course. And again, like I say, that's not even saying that is his backstory. It is a version of the backstory. So if you watch a Spider-Man film, every Spider-Man film starts with the same thing. He gets bitten by a spider. He turns it, he goes through the change. He figures out what his powers are. They're all exactly the same. I mean, Into the Spider-Verse, which is now on Netflix, the animated Batman, which by far is the best Spider-Man out there. At the beginning of that, when it introduces Spider-Man, he actually says, "Right, here we go, hopefully for the last time now," and tells the backstory again, because it becomes boring. We've seen it, which is why I like this thing of the Joker. That this is just a version. Someone could bring out next year a backstory of the Joker, and it has absolutely jack shit to do with Todd Phillips' version. It's fine.
But that's the beauty. That's the beauty of an individual's mind. And like creativity, the art, again, it's all perception. And I think when you see someone's perception that you didn't see before, it becomes very interesting then, because obviously you've got this preconception of, like, say, for instance, the Joker out of Batman, preconception of how this villain came to be in power, and that is based off our director's version of that character. But then when you get something you may not have thought about, and I think that's probably one of the reasons it did so well, is because it's a individual's take on what could have happened to him that not many people may have thought about or may have considered, in a sense of a run-up to becoming a supervillain, rather than him just being, he's just this big evil bloke, rather than, well, how did he become that big evil bloke, sort of thing. Because that's the thing with superheroes and that, you know, you look at like all Michael Bay stuff, Avengers and all that, it's all about the spectacle of that, isn't it? All the big explosions and all the flying and all the lasers and that stuff. But then when you look at the backstory, I mean, we get, with superheroes and stuff, we do get a bit more of a backstory, because it's usually like they're all good guys and they have this big rise to power and all that. But then with villains, you don't often see the run-ups of their early stages of how they got there. And that perception, which makes you, from that director, made you feel somewhat sympathy. And is it called an anti-hero, where you feel like you're on the side of the villain? Is that the...
An anti-hero will be someone like the Punisher, who gives his justice by killing bad guys. So his justice is going against evil people, but what he's doing himself is evil.
Yeah.
But a good point, actually, talking on that is, so you tend to find you get more of a backstory with villains that are human. Your alien backstories, your whatever, you don't get any backstory for them. But actually, that works sometimes too. If you look back at like 80s horror, your Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, yes, they've all got a backstory, we know the backstory. But when you look back at some horrors, sometimes they're just scary because they are what they are.
Because of the mystery around it. Look at is it Paranormal Activity?
Yeah.
Like with the whole sort of ghosts and spirits and that sort of thing. It's because you don't know what it is that is the scary aspect of it, because you can't see it, you don't know what's going on. That is the mystery. I mean, I watched Jeepers Creepers 3 last night, and as much as I think there is an element of it which is scary, a lot of that scariness was taken away because the ghoul or the creepy bloke or whatever is in it was very much in the forefront of the film, and you saw exactly what he looked like, you saw his van that he kidnaps people in, you saw his weapons, and because you can see all of the supervillain, then I suppose it's like the same as why people are scared of the dark, because you don't know what's in the dark. But then soon as you're able to see it, that element of mystery then is taken away.
Yeah.
So I think in respect of like scariness like that, not knowing as much of a backstory has its elements. So trying to be open-minded with it, you can see why people wouldn't do that. But then also looking on the other side of things, like the Joker, having a very in-depth backstory makes you question how that villain became to be how he is. But scary side factor, I mean, I've always liked the Paranormal Activity sort of films. I know they're sort of a bit a Marmite, should we say. But because it's all very secretive, things are moving about and you don't see it much, you know, it's very like, it's all camera shot, isn't it? And with the whole just bits moving about and then there's noises and this and that, it keeps me on the edge of my seat because you don't know where that's coming from. And that element of mystery has got a lot of artistic qualities in itself.
Oh, massively. So me personally, away from like film and stuff, like I'm really big into like researching cults and serial killers, and like listening to podcasts on them or watching documentaries on them, because again, it's the unknown, it's the psychological. How could somebody's head ever make them do what they did? Cannibalism, things like that. Like you can't figure it out, and you know you could be the most well-paid, educated psychologist in the world. You'll never truly 100% understand it. And even some of your like your Ted Bundys and your people like that, Jeffrey Dahmer, even after they spoke, you don't know if they're telling the truth. You don't know actually what they was thinking or what the reasoning was behind it. Like, so again, it's the scariness of how can somebody feel like cults? How could you genuinely be talked into joining Heaven's Gate to the point where you're literally going to give your life to become an alien and join an alien?
Yeah, so some of it is very appealing, isn't it?
Like,
that you know, somebody has got to that point where they're willing to sacrifice everything to become part of this cult. Something to them must seem more appealing than anything in the world. To be able to give up everything and join this and have so much belief and faith in what's going to happen is, you know, and I suppose even cults, I mean, you've got to give it to them to some aspect of that person going into there, to be able to put so much faith into something and feel so, like whether they are or not, so protected by this cult and be part of this family, and think you've got to give it to them to think, to have that level of faith and to have that satisfaction in your life. It's, you know, quite a valuable thing.
Oh, massively. I mean, it's what you do with it from there on, which is the important part. Because if you're going to Charles Manson,
we're not doing that. Like, but again, it's the thought process and stuff like that is very, very interesting. Like I say, you got to think, even stuff like you look at all the sort of like torture porn films and things like Saw and whatnot, and Hostel. The thing that I think about is all these very theatrical, like torture traps and things and how they work and the intricacy of them. Somebody on this planet has the mindset to know how that works to then be able to put it into a film. I mean, this goes on to a lot of like what I think with looking at like conspiracy theories and stuff like that. You look at a lot of films that I think are brought out to be saying this is fiction, and then whether it's a generic straight up conspiracy theory or it's something that is considered very fictional to desensitize you to the fact that it is fiction when it might actually not be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you're saying. Like, I'm obsessed with conspiracy theories. There's not many I really like follow or believe in, but like the Illuminati is a big one for me. I'm really interested in that. I've read loads of books on that. The JFK stuff. I mean, there's a big thing going around at the moment with COVID. There'll always be conspiracy theories, but they're interesting again because, like you say, that is one way of looking at it. If someone comes up with the answer, but you're made to believe it's just bullshit and it's a conspiracy theory, and to laugh at the people with their opinions, then
exactly.
I'm not saying exactly. That's true.
We don't know either way, but exactly,
it's
it's the thought, and I think the open-mindedness to be like, that might be how someone's mind works, or to be able to look at the interesting points of and get out of the whole, well, my mindset is fact and this is how it is because this is what I believe and this is what I don't believe, but to know that other people's beliefs, could be real, could not be, and just to be open to that and then learn more about it. And I think you absorb more information that way, and then you generally get the cogs turning in your own head and to be able to grow your own perspective on stuff, which is also quite interesting. So I know one thing with the Illuminati, I watched a documentary on it a while back, and it said something like the people that obviously believe in them and whatnot, they like to flaunt it, as in, like, I think it was a quote in Now You See Me film. It's like the more you look and the more you see, the more you miss. And the Illuminati like to put stuff like, I think it was on a magazine, Times magazine in New York, and there was this, was it a Rockefeller guy or something like that, Rothschild, that had a watch on, big flashy watch that had like 9/11 on it, that had come out just before 9/11 happened. Like, them sort of like little tricks and little things that are hidden in plain sight, which is also, like, to me, quite interesting of how these things that seem so astronomically fake, but there could be loads of signs and whatnot that are all in your face, which subconsciously make you desensitized to the fact that they actually might be real, which...
Absolutely. Absolutely. On the flip side of that, so you've got that side. On the flip side of it, you will always find something if you are looking for it.
Yeah, that's true.
So a couple of examples. So one is, let's use a day-to-day couple as an example. If you have a feeling, say your partner's up to no good, and you go look through their phone, you will find something, even if there's nothing in there, whether it just be something you take out of context or something like that. But the other thing is, I don't know whether it's an actual thing or not, but the film, is it Number 27 with Jim Carrey?
Number 27.
I think it might be Number 27. I can't quite remember. Where he reads his book and everything in it keeps adding to this number 27. And again, if you look hard enough, everything in your life will add to that. Whereas I could be like, right, on this wall behind me, I've got all these pictures, and if you times that by the amount of chairs in the room, that makes 27. Oh my God! Like, do you know what I mean? If you look for it, you will always find that connection. So the watch with 9/11 on it, was it a police watch? 911.
Could have been that. Could have been. Yes, could have been anything. But like I say, because you don't know how people's different minds work. I mean, we can see for all serial killers and everything, people's minds work in very, very different ways. And I mean, you could go, is it big into, like, is it quantum physics or quantum mechanics? Like, the whole sort of like, I exist and my brain is telling me that you exist and you don't exist in real life because you're only there to influence my life. And getting real deep on it like that is, there is no way for me to know how your brain works and your perception of things, and there's no way for me to know another person's brain. I know if people to know my brain. I don't know if people are saying that they're real to influence, like, a very Matrix film esque of what is real and what is not. And I think it's very, very interesting with that to be like, how does that all fit into it? If that makes sense. I may have gone off a bit of a train there, but
no, I mean, as long as we can all agree that the Earth's flat.
Flat as pancake, mate. I walked off it the other day. I took escalator.
Took right round, mate. Took right round, mate. Right round.
Did, mate. It's boring. Completely it. But yeah, so you can go down the rabbit hole and anything, can't you? Like, the thing is, that whole thing with like the watch and 9/11, that could be real. It could not be real. But again, it all comes back to the unknown, doesn't it? It's all the unknown. And I think like, there's the way people's brain work, like the chemical release in the brain for anxiety and for excitement is the same chemical. It's just how you perceive it. So the unknown is a big thing around that of like, do you get nervous for it or is it an exciting thing? And to me, a lot of the things now, that used to be a lot of anxiety now, is that if I don't know it, then it's stuff that is going to be new to me. It's going to be new information. So to look at all these different points and look at all these different perspectives and get other people's perspectives, a little bit like doing this show, like getting guests on and understanding other people's perspectives and adding to my knowledge bases of things I didn't previously understand, is a very exciting thing. But then I also know from how I used to think, and I know a lot of people that do think like that, that it's a very scary thing, and seeing how that differs in people's mindsets as well.
Well, a perfect example of that is going on to a roller coaster.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything worse. Like, the thought of sitting on a roller coaster fills me with dread. But yet, someone else will absolutely adore that. They'll be like, "Oh my god, this is the most exciting thing ever," because that's their excitement and my anxiety. Yeah. I think going back to the very beginning of this episode, when you said the word going down a rabbit hole, that pretty much describes our friendship, mate, because we started talking about film. And now we're talking about quantum mechanics, mate. that is pretty much you and me.
That is till 5 a.m. on whiskies, mate, that, isn't it? Thinking Illuminati's going to be knocking on the door. Like,
the only difference is you're not on
whiskey. Not for the time being. I've been a sober little bean for a bit, I know. I do miss the old drink though.
How long?
138 days, roughly. Roughly, very specific number. Thank you very much. That's it. Thank you.
Well done, mate. That is fucking
we're doing well.
I can't go 7 days.
Oh, so. You wait till that first night out when I'm back having a drink, mate. We're going to get so deep, mate. We're going to go in a black hole, I tell you.
Well, we will, but you'll be pissed after 2 drinks.
I will, mate, but I'll still keep standing. I'm a trooper, mate. God loves a trier.
Oh, I know you.
But yeah, I think that the main thing is like saying again, like especially why this show is good, is because I'm a very open-minded person, and I know that I don't know everything, and I know the experiences that I have, and the things that I say are based on what is right for my life and my views on things, but I like to see other people's opinions and perspectives and how that may alter my perspective as well. And because everybody is so individual, you can get so many different perspectives and gain such a knowledge basis. And I'm very big on the fact knowledge is power. And the more you can absorb, the more you can understand, and the more exciting things that you can delve into. And that is one thing that I do love doing, is delving into all this stuff. Like I say, we started off talking about film, we ended up at Illuminati and quantum mechanics. I mean, that is a train, that, mate. That is a train that I am boarded before.
We always do, mate. We always do, mate. And this is why I love our chats. This is why our chats always go till 5 in the morning.
I know, man. It's great. It's mad sick.
Not enough time in the world to fit
on our shit. We'll find it. Don't you worry. And I think it's just a point we have probably touched on somewhere in that big spiel of everything. But what sort of film, going back to films now, we're off quantum mechanics and serial killers. What sort of film makes you assess your own life? What are the qualities of a film that you think, or certain films in particular? I mean, we spoke a lot about Joker and how that is relatable, and that is, for me, considered art. But what would make you look at a film and then maybe that film stays in your head, and then you keep thinking about that and how that fits in and how that is going to influence your future? Is a very broad way of putting it.
Yeah, I think it's down to what's important to you, isn't it? So, for me, ever since having a child, I watch films with kids in very different. So a film that will always stick with me will normally have a dilemma where maybe a father has to leave a child or something like that, because that is my forefront. That's where all my attention goes, is to my daughter. It's very much that now that is my thing. Whereas if you're coming out of a breakup, if you've just been left or you live someone, you will view films about relationships, and that will change. If you fucked up in a relationship and you see that on the television, that will always stick with you. I see where I went wrong. I've been there myself. I've been in relationships that have ended, and I've looked back and I've gone, I maybe wasn't the best boyfriend. I've probably spent too much time doing my own thing and not paying attention to them. And you see that in a film, and then you relate to that. For me, it's definitely things with kids at the moment. So whether it be Marriage Story was one that I cried my eyes out to. There's a zombie film on Netflix called Cargo, which I absolutely bailed my eyes out to. Oh my God, it's amazing.
That is some artistic quality.
It's so fucking good, and I don't know how it isn't bigger than it is. Like, most people I speak to haven't seen it, and it's a beautiful fucking film. I cried my eyes out to it, and so films like that will always stick to me. And those ones that made me reassess my life. What would I do? How can I be a better father? How can I get my kid to grow up being the best person she can be, and having good morals, good views, but at the same time letting them be themselves. So I don't want to push me onto my daughter. I'm not perfect. I want her to be.
Then to me,
she will always be perfect to me. But
that's it, and that's something I always. Well, to be fair, it comes back to like what you said about that film 27 with Nicolas Cage. Like, you will always find what you're looking for. So I suppose Jim Carrey, sorry, yeah. Like, anything that you look at, depending on what it is that you're going through at the time, you could, like you say, you can look at a zombie film and relate that to yourself. Based on your perception of things and your creativity and how your mind works different to how someone else's minds work. And then you will always take, again, what you say of what is important to you is what you're going to take away from that, which is, is interesting. But then it's also a good question, probably is sort of related, but it's just where my mind works, is finding out, how do you find out what is important to you in life?
I mean, the majority of things I feel are quite prominent. Like, you'll know what's missing, because those are things that you sort of need. Those are the things that you yearn for. But no one actually ever really knows what they want in life. Like, you could be the happiest person on earth with a great job and all the money. There'll always be something more you want. Whether it'll never be money or anything like that, but it'll be maybe something physical or emotional or something. We're all missing something, aren't we?
Exactly, and I think, like you say, you can always find that thing that is missing. But I think for me, there is a beauty in that because if you had everything and there was nothing missing, then what is the point of life then? Well, how are you going to grow? How are you going to move forward if you don't have that thing that you are striving for? It's like having the novelty of things, whether it is something like a games console or whether it's something that is, like a child in your life. Like, no matter what it is, there's always going to be that one thing to go for next. But I think that's a good thing, because it's always something that's going to keep you driving forward. It's going to keep that ambition there, no matter what it's for that you are trying to obtain. It's going to keep you moving and keep you passionate about going forward. Because I think that's the thing, innit? The sun gets up every day and goes to bed every night. The earth's going to continue to rotate. You are continually moving forward with it. You cannot stop. And I think the way our heads work is we always need things to be able to move forward with. Otherwise, I think that is a big thing of a lot of mental health issues, is when you stop figuring out how to move forward or what you're moving forward for, and you stop in a world that doesn't stop. That continually makes people, and going off my experiences, like why I crumbled, because you stop seeing, like, there's this fog, you stop seeing what there is in front of you. Because, like, to take it for instance with, what did we have a conversation the other night about finances and stuff, and we put, you talked to me about putting a simple plan in place of, right, you sell this, you don't use that, sell that, and we can do this, and then you've sorted your little bits of debts out. And I was like, oh, well, that's a really straightforward plan, really.
But
in my head,
your
without
head,
that perspective,
it was the biggest issue
without
going.
that perspective there of putting them little steps in place, it was like financial stress. I was like, oh my God, I'm racking up loads of debt. I don't know how to get out of it. I might be, changing different bits and bobs, which is going to change me money, like in the future. How am I going to get out of this hole? And then when we laid it out and had your perspective in, it's like, it's only about 200 quid. So it's not that much. And then you sell this and this, and then you sorted. You never use that. Just get rid of it, and then you're in the green. And then it's like, bloody hell. Like, when you've got a support network of people around you that can give you even what seems like simple little pieces of advice and little plans. But I think when you get into that sort of bad headspace, then you always focus more on the negatives than you do the positives. And then when you struggle to process stuff and everything becomes a bit much, you tend to bury your head in the sand. But then obviously that makes it worse. And then the negatives grow rather than the positives. But when you take a step back, and it's very, very difficult to do on your own. That's why it's good to have good friends and family around you. A few little steps like that, from an outside perspective, looking in, problem sorted. So I think...
I mean, you've always very much been like that, haven't you? We've always sort of had these conversations throughout our friendship of, like you could see something so small as so big as a problem, and actually having to be grounded sometimes of, right, come on, get in the fucking kitchen with me, open a couple of beers, right, where's the issue? Where's this? Right, okay, well, have you thought of doing it like this? Have you thought of doing it like that? Oh, actually, yeah, it's that. And just that quick conversation, which is why I'm a huge advocate of talking anyway. Like, I've just done a little course on counselling. A lot of the work I do is like, I've worked with victim support and staff welfare work and bits and bobs like this, because that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy kind of going, okay, just let's take a step back. Because I've been in that situation myself where just your head is that full of shit that you can't see through it. Like, and actually, I'm in a stage of my life now where we all have our struggles, but like, I'm quite zen. I can sit back and see through the fog now, that I want to impart that on people that can't do it, that do struggle, that are still, weighing themselves down with issues that might be quite easily managed, but you won't know without having that conversation. Instead of suffering in silence, just talk. Because you don't always want, and it all depends on your friends and the people you talk to as well. Because some people would be very much like, "This is what you need to do. Go do it." That's not helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
But sitting back and going,
it's the approach, isn't it?
Okay, so how do you think? What if you take a moment now? What do you think you could change? And you coming up with that yourself is a lot more,
more approachable, isn't it?
Yeah. Go do because this now. If you call it yourself and go, oh yeah, fuck.
In a world of negative thinking, when every little problem seems like the world's crashing down, when someone comes quite confrontational to do it in a way like that, it can come across more negative, even though it's not, but because that's where your head is at the time. And I think, like, looking back as well, like, I know, relate it back to the Joker again, that like having that support network of people around you with different types of approaches are always good, because again, it's different perspectives and everyone's individual of how they need that information to be delivered. And when you have multiple sources of how that information can be delivered, one of them, if not multiple versions of them, will work. And with the Joker in that film, because he had nobody around him, and like, is his idol that TV host on the film? That person Murray. Yeah, Murray. Like, obviously he adored him, didn't he? Thought he was, and I think what kept him going is, I'm going to be seeing this Murray, and he's just, I feel that connection there with him. And then when he turned around and took the piss out of him and didn't realise that, realised that he had nobody there for that support, and nobody to give that outer perspective to. So all these negative thoughts in your head, one leads to another, leads to another, can lead to some really surreal situations in your head. And not good ones as well, without them outsource input of advice and ideas. That's why people deteriorate so much, and that's why we see a lot of mental health issues now, I think, because people don't have that support network there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
and then the Joker shot him, didn't he, at the end, because he was like, no, I've had enough.
So if people could not do that,
Don't shoot people. Doesn't help.
don't shoot
No.
people.
Only shoot them with love guns.
Be good.
Love guns,
Love
baby.
guns. Kiss said it
That's
best, mate. Kiss knows about the love guns.
Yes, he does, man. A bit of kiss.
Yeah, so just so I can put it out there now, like nearly an hour in, the film's called The Number 23, not The Number 27.
Oh, there's a few off.
Just that was doing my fucking head in, so I had to Google it while she was talking because I hate someone being like, get it right, for fuck's sake.
There's
number
there's
23.
perfection and imperfection, mate. It's number 27. It's
number 27 now.
It's anger people.
Rebranded it.
That was mad things. Yeah, there's another question as well that I did send to you for your podcast, which is quite an interesting one that I've been thinking about. Because there was a film that I saw, and I can't for the life of me find what it was called or what it was. But it was basically a film that was based around exasperating the potential dangers of COVID-19 and made it into this big, like, thriller style horror where it was, people there, the army were on the streets with guns and they were like, oh, you been tested? Oh, no. And he's like, I'm immune. The whole world's turning to shit and there's all explosions everywhere. And it looked fucking like horrific. And I think my question with it is it morally acceptable to exasperate COVID-19 and its potential dangers in a film to make money?
When you word it like that, no. So it's not morally right, no. It 150% is going to happen. Of course. I mean, you look at films like Contagion, which I've not seen. We've discussed this. Like, I've not seen Contagion, but everyone that has seen it said it's basically exactly the same what's going on now. But I mean, it's already happening. As you know, I'm big into like my board games and stuff. I've recently got into board games. So I get a lot of adverts on Facebook for board games, and there's already a COVID card game out.
COVID card game?
Yeah, where like you battle against each other, and you've got to try find a vaccine for it, but you've got to keep like fucking everyone else's vaccines up. So it's gonna happen. People are gonna make this because whether you want to make it light-hearted to the fact, or it's the biggest thing we'll ever. I mean, no one ever thought we'd go through this, did we? Like, it's the biggest thing that we will ever go through in life, probably. Like, it's such a huge thing. It's put the world on pause for nearly a year now. Like, it's going to happen. Morally, probably not. But if you look at things like, so a perfect example for me would be Schindler's List. Schindler's List is a beautiful fucking film about concentration camps. Do we just ignore them because they happened? Do we just go, right, that happened, that was an awful thing, let's ignore it? Now, they didn't make that film probably to go, the world needs to see this, or a few of them might have done, but let's be honest, they were thinking of one thing, and that was the They were thinking about the one exactly. Yeah. And it
says a lot, doesn't it?
So if it's done right, it could work very, very well, because it has been proven. The likes of that, some of your war films, bad things happen. But how do we sort of represent them in the future?
It's like with Black Lives Matter and stuff, innit? It's acknowledging what's happened, and all the statues of people that have been took down because they were people that were like heavily racist and didn't had a what's the word for it? A different outlook than people originally thought when it was written in the histories of these great figures, when actually they were quite horrible people, and of a lot of people that are sort of in the forefront going, this isn't acceptable, this isn't right, all that and the other, and causing a lot of big protests and that over it. But then is it like it's just acknowledging it happened, understanding it, but then also moving forward from that as well? Which is similar to what you're saying there about that film with the concentration camps. The reasons of it, we need to acknowledge that happened, and we need to not forget it, but we also need to focus on moving to the future as well and constructing our future how we want it, based on the experiences that we've had and based on the experiences that our predecessors have had. And I'm a big advocate of the past. There's no point in worrying over something you can't change. We can change the future, and if we want things to be different, we need to focus on making those things different for the better, and not personally fixate too much on the past. And I don't want to piss anyone off and say that, but that sort of, if that makes sense.
I think you have to focus on the past to be able to move forward. Though, do you know what I mean? Like, without these mistakes, then you can't learn. So yes, you have to focus on them. You have to go, right, this happened. This is fucking awful. This changes now. Do you know what I mean? So it's a hard one because it's what we do in our lives. Like, we made a mistake or we did something wrong. So from that point, I'm never doing that again. And so I might be on the other end of you, if I'm honest with you, a little bit there, because I focus on my past and maybe some of the negative things I've done or the negative thoughts I've had to be able to grow.
Yeah.
And, it's great if you don't do that. I think that's amazing.
No, I got
that you go, right, that's done. Done's done. I'm going to move forward now. But that's how
I get what you
personally
mean.
do it.
I get what you mean. And to be honest, I may have said that wrong in a sense because it's, it's a lot easier said than done. Like, right, it's done, let's move forward. I think that the word, it depends how you view the word focus. I think there's a difference between focusing on something and understanding it and how to use that to move forward, to be a better person for who you want to be, or dwelling on something. I think when you dwell on something, which is very natural, it has a lot of worry and you fixate on it in front of you, and you remember all the negatives of it and what went wrong with it, but you don't focus on it to understand how to logically take that and turn it into something better for yourself in the future.
As long as what you're doing by using the past is for a positive thing, then great. Use the past for positive. Don't use the past for negative. Don't use it to be like, well, you did this, so this means you're an arsehole. Yeah, that was me. That was me. That is not me now. And I suppose we get this as humans. Like, I'm sure there's people in your life that have been an absolute prick to you for a long time, and actually if they got in contact now, you'd be like, go fuck yourself. I've definitely got it at the moment. Like, for people in my lives that have harmed me or hurt me, that actually could come back to me and go, look, I'm sorry, I wasn't in the right frame of mind, but I'm not interested in listening to it.
Yeah.
I try not to all the time, but we all have that in us, don't we? Like, I think 90% of the time I'm quite an open person to, okay, well, talk to me, and I give people chance. Get rid of them chances. Once you've had your chances, you've had your chances, but you don't always give that chance again. But yeah, as long as 99% of the time you are just going, right, this happened, let's use this and push forward and make it a positive, let's change something for the right, change something for the for the good, then brilliant. But if you just using it to harm others or use that as a reason to be an arsehole, then you're
it's
on the
what
wrong
you
lines.
do with the information that you absorb, which is the person that makes you to be. I think there's a quote I like where it's like, accept the things you cannot change and have the courage to change the things that you can.
Yeah,
it's quite a big thing. Understand, like, and learn from things, but worrying about thinking this happened, I wish it hadn't happened like that, I wish it happened like this, it is useless in doing that, because worry it's not productive. But like you said, using that information that you've got of how to move forward is how you grow and develop. And I mean, I think you need to go through some shit in your life, no matter what type it is. I mean, whatever shit, whether it's little or big, is dependent on the person, but whatever it is important if you are feeling it. Whether it's like something small, like I didn't have enough money to get a pasta pot meal deal at Co-op, and that has caused a lot of anxieties and worry, or it's, you've got a bereavement for loved ones that have passed. Like, yes, people can say from an outside perspective, well, that doesn't matter, and that matters because that's bigger. I've been through this is bigger than that, and that's not important. But if it is something that is affecting you, even if it should be more than it is, then it's important to you. I think people are quite quick to judge other people based on their opinions of what they consider someone should be happy about or someone should be sad about, which rather than having the support.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, there's two things there. One, nobody can afford a pasta meal deal from
They can't,
Co-op.
mate.
Nobody.
They
They can't because it's fucking ridiculous. I'm not having it. Co-op
Fuck
for
meal
too
deal.
much. But yeah, exactly. Fuck that meal deal. But you're right, mate. Like your problems might be small to me, but they're big to you. And at the end of the day, I'll be there for you as a person because that is a big thing for you. Like, yes, you could be struggling because your fucking pipe broke in your bathroom, but I could have just I could have just lost someone very close to me. I'm not gonna say to you, go fuck yourself. My friend's just died, or my mum's just died, or something like that. Like, that's the point. Like, yes, I'm also going through shit. You take time to deal with yours. I'll take time to deal with mine. Like, you come together in as human beings. We just know, don't we? We just know. I feel that this, and I especially feel it is. I feel this person probably needs the help more than I do. So I'm not going to dwell on my shit. I can talk about my shit at a different time. I'll talk with you. Like, let's go through your issues.
Yeah.
Like, as long as you're not taking them on yourself and dumping yourself down even more. Like, you just knowing yourself actually what that person's going through. They look like they need they need help more than I do. And regardless whether you think that their problem's not as big as yours, it doesn't matter.
To them.
You just know that. You just sense that, because I could have the best support network in the world dealing with a bereavement, say, but you might have zero support network dealing with a broken heart. So everything is just down to the person, and you just don't know. You don't know the wider view. You don't know where the support network is. You don't know whether they have mental health issues that doesn't help, whether it's
exactly. You don't know what people are going through. Like I say, it could be, I haven't got enough money for the meal deal. And let's be honest, if somebody is feeling a lot of anxiety and pressure over that, and it is a big thing for them, it is probably stemmed from past trauma or past things that are going on in the mind. But that's the thing, you don't know how someone's thinking. It's what we said earlier. You don't know how them cogs are working, how them synapses are sending signals across the brain. You don't know how that's wired up. And at the end of the day, if someone says they are distressed by something, it's whether you are there to confront someone and say, no, that's fucking wrong, based on your opinion, but they say it like a fact, or it's there to say, okay, well, let's look at the options of how we can deal through this. But people, you don't know what people are going through. In the end of the day, that's why you should always be kind to everyone, because it might not seem like a big thing to you, but you don't know what's going on in people's lives. And even to the point, there was something I learned on training at work, and it was the phrase attention seeking. And it's always got a lot of stigma around it, attention seeking. Oh, that person's attention seeking. Look at them. Oh, they're doing this, that, and the other. But when you look at it in the context of, it's not attention seeking, it's comfort seeking. The perspective on it becomes a lot different of why that person is doing that in the first place. So that preconception of why that person is doing that, and your opinion based off of the actions that person makes, changing one word in a phrase, then may give you an ulterior perspective on why that person is doing that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I've not thought of it like that, but that's really good.
Yeah, man. Bad thing to do. But yeah, so COVID-19 films.
But it's going to happen, and let's just hope that is portrayed right. I can't remember what it's fucking called now, but there is a wicked film about a tsunami with Ewan McGregor in it, and that is done really well. That is done beautifully again. So we'll just see. It's going to happen. It's going to be shoved in our faces over the next few years. But me personally, natural disaster, anything like that, I can't watch, even if it's ridiculous. I just can't watch them because I'm terrified of death. I'm terrified that one day it's going to pop up on the news that a meteorite's going to hit the Earth. You have about 20 minutes to live. I've not got my kid or my friends around me or my family. I'm going to die. Like shit like that terrified me, so I avoid it like the plague anyway.
That's what I'm saying about that logical thought process, isn't it? When you logically don't know how to move forward from that situation, that's when stuff like panic attacks occur, and that's when you start to have breakdowns because you don't know how to go to that next step. Which is that next step to take in that situation? And like I say, some things, like the whole thing with the money, very easy to have another perception of, right, just do this, this, and this. But something like that, which, isn't that far-fetched from the truth, because we've had all COVID this year. You don't know what the fuck's around the corner. Could be all around the corner. And then to not know that next step to take, that's when things become difficult. But I say in that respect, like I say, good support network. Get as many opinions as you can of people that trust you and love you, and then want to see you in the best position that you can. I mean, that's, to me, I think a lot of like what love is and the perception of love. Everybody says, oh, I think love's this. I think there's different types of love. There's a love you have for your partner. There's a love you have for your family. To me, there is one type of love, and that is one thing of what, if you love someone, you want to see that person in the best position that they can be for themselves unconditionally. And you would do whatever it takes for that person to be happy, as to whatever version of happiness they would consider happy. And then people say, yeah, well, that love is... we've had this conversation at one point. Like, you've got your love for your partner, and that's different to your mum. It's like, no, you love your partner and want to see them as happy as they possibly can be. And you love your mum and you want to see her as happy as you can be. The difference in that is the lust and the attraction there you have for your partner, which you don't have for your mum, unless you're some, like, incestual bastard. But each their own.
I mean, I'll be honest, I do love your mum as much as I love my partner.
I know you do, mate.
She's a babe.
Lady, our Maxine, isn't she?
It's very weird. It's very weird, Just quickly, this is a bit of a strange story, but I've recently got rid of it. I was on Tinder, and I don't know if you was on at the same time as me, but they brought out this thing called Swipe Night for a while, where every weekend you could go on, and it was a bit like. Did you ever watch the film?
Was it like a game thing?
Oh, you watched it?
I've seen it, yeah.
Yes,
and it matched you up with certain people based on the answers they give in that, like, natural disaster type of it.
Yes, but the film was about dying. Like, the whole thing was about dying because a meteorite's about to take out the Earth. I was like, this is the most fucked up thing.
That is a look on it. That is a look on what we just said about the whole film with Contagion and dying. It's like, right, best get a match now because you might be dead tomorrow. Get Tinder Gold.
I didn't match with any fucker either. Well, mine, but it basically said you're going to die alone.
I laugh if it said, oh, you're not going to get a match because you're the only one that survived.
Yeah, exactly. Because you did the normal thing and hid in the refrigerator. Like Indiana Jones, mate. He did
Find
it right.
love now because you'll be dead soon.
I just thought I did it because I like shit like that, but I just thought it's the weirdest fucking thing ever. A dating site, and yes, possibly the biggest dating site there is out there. And it's basically like, oh, we're going to match you with people.
If in a natural disaster, which is more than potential with COVID that's happened, so it might not be far from the truth with your shit mental health out is at the moment anyway. Why don't you get a match with this person because they want to die on a beach as well?
Yeah, which I wouldn't mind. But like the people you matched with, it wasn't even in like your catchment area. So you matched with someone like Cardiff, and it's like, we have 20 minutes to live. I ain't meeting with mate. We're making Cardiff, am I? Let's be fucking real.
Tinder Gold, you can FaceTime her for an hour. Right.
Is that what it is? Mate, they should be matching you with your next door neighbour just in case. You know what I mean?
Match it with your neighbour's cat. Right.
Yeah, it just made me think of that. I was like, that's the fucking weirdest thing ever. But, I still enjoyed it. They should bring back more natural disaster things on dating sites. Why not?
Money! That's what it's all about, man. I did see a comment pop up early saying how much to save my moustache off. £30, and I'll get rid of it.
How much for that moustache to go? £30.
Where is it? 30
Not bad.
quid.
Yeah, it's Tyler side.
Yes, Tyler. £30, I'll get rid of it. I'll probably get rid of it at some point anyway, but give us some money and, we'll make that a deal.
You do look very baby-faced though without any facial.
Not very youthful.
Well, you are. Youthful.
I don't know. I'm getting on a bit now. I'm not the 18-year-old I was anymore.
Oh, you're catching up with me.
Oh
dear.
Mad sick. Right. I reckon that was enough of a tangent for one night.
So we answered that one question.
Was
it film?
Was it about film? I don't know. It was about fucking dying, wasn't it? Or what makes you happy and how much do you want to pay for Tinder Gold before you get blown up by a meteor?
So the moral of this conversation is the film is The Number 23 with Jim Carrey.
I remember pink, the colour pink. Pink is pink.
Yeah, the colour pink.
The rest of it you'll have to watch back because I can't remember half of it.
I didn't know, me neither. Sounds about right.
Well, thank you for coming on, Sam. It's been a pleasure as always, my friend.
Yes, it's been amazing. We'll get together. We'll do some separate bits. Maybe come on our podcast and.
Oh.
Well, we couldn't do this.
Sure. I'll make a film based around this. I'll be like, right, there's this film called Sharpy and Sam 2: Return of the Sharpy and Sam.
Right, quick plug. I'm going to do a quick plug because fuck it, you've got me on the internet now. Sorry you're in my seat. We've got 3 massive Christmas episodes coming up over the next few weeks. We've got a massive prize giveaway. We're giving away a 55-inch 4K TV as a prize. We've got a couple of other little prizes to give away. So please, sorry you're in my seat. Like, listen, give it all the thumbs up. I'm just hijacking your podcast from our podcast now. So please, you could win a TV just by listening to us sexy
models. My television, mate, 4K and bits. You know that's good.
It's fucking massive, mate. Like, and the worst thing is I have to store it here. It's huge.
Imagine when the meteorite does hit, how clear that picture will be. You get to see it firsthand, mate.
Big time. You
could have your Tinder honey on the side on your video chat because she's probably somewhere in the North Pole, but you get to see all her lovely 4K goodness going on at the same time. So
exactly.
So that's why you need to get that TV. It won't cost you a penny, and you get to see your honey and your meteorite.
Yes, exactly. So listen to the podcast. Listen to Sorry on My Seat. Win the TV. Carry on listening to us because that's why we're giving this TV away. Don't just use us for our fucking TV and money.
You TV users.
But no, awesome. I've really enjoyed this. Mate. We'll have to do something. I mean, with hopefully someone's enjoyed listening to us because I don't give a shit if nobody listens to us. I just love doing this. And now you don't live here, we don't get to do this.
I know. We're still house-based for life, mate. That is still true and dire, my friend.
Yeah.
And we'll get back on it as soon as this lockdown bullshit's over with, mate. We're getting some whiskey and we're going to be getting tasty. Always. Right, so I shall catch you in a bit, brother.
Love you, boy.
You take it steady. So that is my first episode, guys, of Sharpy Does Bits, mate. And bits may change. They may do all sorts of bits. If anyone's got any ideas or comments of things that they want me to do or conversations you want to have, if anyone wants to come on, do contact me, and I'm more than happy, more merry to get some people on, and we'll just have a chat. We'll talk about life. We'll talk about COVID. We'll talk about bloody what you had for dinner, mate. I'm not really fussed. We'll just get deep on it, and it'll be a good laugh. But thank you all for watching. Please do tune in to the Utopia Project podcast. We do our main shows that come out on a Tuesday. They're a lot of fun. They give everyone a bit of a laugh. We certainly get a laugh out of it. And just spread the love, guys, and have a good time. But thank you all for watching. You've all been fantastic. Thank you very much.